Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is John Scheibe and we're going to be walking through some edits today. Very exciting. So in case you missed it, the series of photos that we're going to be taking a look at today are from a recent vlog that I did either earlier this week or last week. I'll put a card up here somewhere so you can click that if you want to watch how I went about getting these photos. So basically what happened, just to sort of summarize the vlog, is a couple of months ago I noticed that there is a house in a nearby lake from where I'm staying right now that is flooded. It's like submerged in water, not completely obviously, but it's like the whole level of the lake rose and the house is now, it has like a good foot or two of water in it. So I launched a kayak and I paddled across the lake to the house and I was able to paddle around and I took some photos of the house. So we're gonna be taking a look at those pictures today. We're starting from raw and we're gonna go right to final Instagram export and we're just gonna see what that process is like for me. I have a bunch of photos here. I think there's 142 photos in total. So I'm just gonna kind of walk through exactly what I do from start to finish to try and get these ready and looking good for my grid on Instagram. So I have here all of the imports here. There's like I said, 142 photos. So basically what I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna cycle through these photos left and right and I'm going to tag the photos that I think are good enough. And then at the end, we'll just have sort of a short, like maybe 10, 15 picture collection of the shots that I think are at a quality level that I would wanna put on my Instagram. So I'm just gonna sort through these here. That one looks fine. I don't know why. I always take these, I always take photos sort of horizontally, but I do always prefer them vertically. I don't know why I do that, but this one's not bad. I could save that one. I know there's better shots of that coming up. I'm gonna save that one. Ooh, that's kind of interesting. I think I would straighten that out anyways though, so let's just get a nice, that's nice, I like that. Ooh, we got a close-up one. I'm smart, look at that. I like the one that's a little bit brighter. I think that's gonna be easier to work with. There's a tree in kind of the bay here I'm gonna work past. That looks okay. I like how there's some stuff in the foreground on this shot. Let's see. Yeah, this house, it was kind of in rough shape. What I'm noticing here is that there's these like the water level is so high under this windowsill that it looks kind of like a fake reflection. It looks like I'm faking it, but this is actually, that's actually the water level up near the bottom of that window. It's kind of wild. I kind of like that shot, so we're gonna keep that. I think I like this wider shot of the picnic table, so I'm gonna do that one. Now here's a nice, so I switched to my wide angle lens for these ones, and I kind of like these shots here. These ones might not go on my Instagram, but if I can give it a good enough look, then maybe I can do something with those in a sort of a horizontal layout. Maybe it has some potential, I'm not sure. So this tree was obviously in the yard somewhere, and then when the water level rose, it's now like a foot and a half up the trunk, so it just kind of looks like the tree's growing out of the middle of this small pond, which is kind of wild. So I'm gonna save one of those pictures, and I tried to get some of the reflections in the water. That one might be nice to work with, I don't know. So we'll try that and see if that works. The water level is so close to these houses, it looks like I'm just cropping the photo at the bottom of the house and rotating it around and just, it looks like I'm faking these reflections, but the water level really is that high. I actually don't like that shot anymore. I like this one better. Sometimes when there's people like on the platform who choose to show you how they edit photos, what they normally do is they pre-select photos that they already know work good for an edit. But what I like about this, I just want to show you guys that some of these pictures just look like they could have just been snapped with my phone. You know, they are taken raw, so that's really nice for me to be able to work with. Oftentimes, just taking a lot of pictures, kind of just changing angles and different things like that, you might surprise yourself by what you can find. I'm scrolling right past a couple of these, but some of these might be really workable. From somebody just looking at this picture, not willing to do any work to it, it looks okay, you know, it's canted, so there's not much, you know, on the surface that makes it look very appealing, but you could work with this and make it look really nice. I'm not shy at all about showing all of the photographs that I took from the shoot and showing you which ones I think work and kind of explaining why I think they work well. So I'm not, every time I toggle on a tag for a photo, I don't just commit to it. If I tag it because I like it and I find a photo that I like better, that does a better job composition-wise or something down the line, I'm not afraid to go back and untag that first photo. So don't be afraid to like mess around with which photos you actually want to edit. You don't have to commit to, you know, any of these. I believe this house was also abandoned. I mean, it would have to be. If there was a basement in this house, it would be absolutely flooded. So there was these pine trees, and there was a nice, I don't even know what kind of tree this is, but it's already changing colors. It was like the only tree on the lake that was changing colors, and I thought that might be kind of cool. So when I crop for Instagram, I'm cropping to a 4x5. When I do crop to a 4x5, I'll lose a little bit off the top and a little bit off the bottom, especially when I shoot vertically, of course. And I can drag and I can, you know, decide where it is exactly that I want that crop to be. But when I'm choosing these photos, I am looking already at how the composition is. Like that tree that I just picked, this one here, I know that I'm gonna lose a little bit off the bottom, and I think that's gonna give me some wiggle room on the top. Like I can choose if I can lose more of the bottom or less of the top, or vice versa. So I'm just thinking of all of that ahead of time. That's part of what I'm thinking about when I'm looking at composition here. So this is just kind of like a bland staircase. I rolled past it, and I thought it looked kind of interesting because it keeps going. There's steps under the water, but I'm looking for a photo that looks really symmetrical, and this one looks good. Okay, so now I'm gonna go down here, and you'll see this little green tab here. I've been tagging all of the photos that I wanna edit with green by hitting the number 8 key on my keyboard here. If you tap that, then it's gonna sort of filter through all those photos, and I have here now an array of all of the photos that I was interested in editing here. So this is every photo that I tagged as having editing potential. What I usually do is I go through and I'll find the crop first. So I'll find a crop that works really nice. The sky's really overblown here, so I'm gonna try to minimize as much of that as possible, and I'm gonna angle it just a little bit. That looks okay, but there's just something really boring about that for some reason. Maybe I can find it in the edit, but starting out, I'm not really loving this photo, but maybe I can work with it. So I have this horizontal photo, like I said, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do an Instagram 4x5 crop, and I'm gonna see if there's something that I can work with here. So if you're looking at how the 4x5 crop, it has those lines down the middle, and that tells you kind of where your composition should be. So I'm looking at the door. I'm trying to keep the door as center frame as possible. So you'll see there's about the same amount above that line here as there is below that line until it hits the water and until it hits the frame up top. So I think that's gonna be a good crop for that 4x5. And I kind of like how it's not the water level that's canted, it's kind of the building that's canted very slightly. So I'm gonna leave it like that because I think that kind of gives it a little more, it makes it a little bit more visually interesting. So we're gonna keep that crop there for now. So one thing that I notice, or that you do notice as you're working with photographs and editing, is that you do kind of catch on to a little bit of what your style is. And I do find that I really, really like symmetrical photos. I like to have stuff with like strong leading lines and stuff to as close to exactly center as I can get, as unless there's like an interesting enough photo where I don't, but I really like these like down the barrel, focused right in the center of the picture shots. You'll find those scattered throughout my Instagram. I do like shots like that. Okay, so we're done. I sped up that footage, and I'm sure you noticed, but there was a couple of pictures that I decided that didn't work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start back over here. So I've done all of the cropping for these photos back down to that Instagram 4x5 that I like, with the exception of this one. I don't know what I would use that for, but obviously it looks better because the whole building is in the shot. So I'm gonna go back over to this first shot here. And now this is where, you'll notice on the left-hand side here that I have a lot of Instagram presets for other Instagram accounts, like creators and stuff. I went back a long time ago and I bought like a huge pack of creator presets at a discounted price. Before anybody gives me hate for that, because there is some people out there who I think kind of like are weird about it, presets are a great way to learn how to edit photos. And I'll make a whole nother video about this topic later, but essentially what I've done is I've spent a great amount of time going through all of these presets and looking at how each of them affects like a particular image in different ways. And it allows me then to create myself custom presets that I think give it a look, or give my pictures a look that I'm happy with. So using these presets, these other creators' presets, being able to like see where they find their style, it's allowed me to sort of explore my own style in a way. It's taught me a lot. What I've done is I'm kind of developing my own set of presets as well, and I have two here that I like to bounce back and forth between. So this is a preset that I'm using right now on my Instagram. I'll throw my feed somewhere here, over on this side maybe. So this is my Instagram feed right now. It's fairly random on the bottom, but as you scroll further towards the top, you'll notice that there's a certain mood about that top half, and I'm certainly getting into these like dark, moody fall colors. because fall is coming, and I do think that that's gonna look really nice for my grid. So I have developed this Wicked preset to kind of boost this sort of moody edit. So one thing that you have to be really careful with presets, and you'll hear other people talk about this all the time too, you never just wanna slap a preset onto a photo. For anybody who doesn't know, by the way, a preset is sort of like an Instagram filter. Like, it's a filter that you just slap on your photo and it makes your photo look nice, but that's not 100% true. So the point that I'm trying to make is you never just wanna slap a preset onto a photo and just call it good. There is going to be minor tweaks that you're going to want to make to those photos. So I've put Wicked on this photo and it looks pretty good. How dark the blacks are here, the shadows are nice, and it's kind of a little bit contrasty, but not too bad. It just kind of pops the building a little bit, and I like that. But there's some things that I'm gonna adjust. So right away, I have this slider here, and I have this, you'll see it down here, I have it dragging the exposure down a little bit. And it kind of helps me with the skies, because what I do is I shoot with my histogram with a lot of information in the middle. I like to keep most of my blacks and not a lot of my highlights. So it allows me to have some more flexibility in these darker ranges of the image. That's what helps me with this preset, because it really kind of makes those darker colors look a lot better. A side effect of that, because I'm not shooting right now with neutral density filter or anything like that, so my highlights and my whites are oftentimes, like the skies in the images are normally kind of a little bit too bright for the photo, so I have just a minor adjustment slider here. If I hover over it, you'll see that it just kind of takes care of the top of the image normally where the sky is. So I'm gonna kind of adjust that to where I think the sky is gonna be, and I actually kind of like what it's doing to the trees here a little bit as well. So I'm gonna hold it right about there, and I think that's gonna be good. And I'm gonna go through here and I'm gonna pull down these highlights just a little bit. You see it kind of makes that bright, clear white on the top of the image there just a little bit hazier. And it's gonna bring it a little bit more towards a yellow color, which I'm kind of liking right now. So I've got all these options here on the right, and I don't think that there's a particular way that you have to approach this. I think that you can kind of approach these sliders in whatever way you find that works for you. What I like to do, I like to drag these graduated filters around first. So like to take care of the sky, for example, and I know I have another one over here that helps with some of the exposure as well. And I've got another one over here that does shadows and exposure, and that kind of gives my images like that nice deep color on the sides. It helps me bring focus towards the center. So I have one over here, and I might duplicate this actually, and put one over on this side as well and spin it around, and that way I'm doing too much to the trees though, so I'm gonna keep it down here a little bit. And that does kind of counterbalance this filter here, but I think that looks good, and I can't bother with spending too much time trying to figure all that out. So that looks pretty nice. This looks like a nice isolated shot. You could almost draw a circle around the part that's popping. So I do like to make sure that I'm in a landscape for the landscape shots. I think Adobe does a nice job with those profiles. Another thing I like to do, I like to look at the post-crop vignetting, and I like to make sure that it's not too crazy, and I like to pair this with my profile corrections, because the profile corrections are sort of in camera, whereas the post-crop vignetting is sort of Lightroom just doing it. Even though the image is raw, I do think that if your profile corrections help create that natural vignette, if you want it, I do think that's the better way to go sometimes. Let's see, I like how deep my blacks are. I'm gonna just adjust these sliders here just to see what it does. I don't want it too punchy. My images end up looking a little bit contrasty, but the reality is that I normally suck a good chunk of the contrast out. It's just, I find a lot of the contrast in the shadows and the blacks and different things like that. So I think there's another way that you can do a contrast without actually doing it. Does that make any sense? I hope so. We're gonna pull some of these highlights down. That's gonna pull in some of those clouds. I don't like what it's doing to the bottom half. So actually, I'm gonna go to this graduated filter, the one that's taking care of my sky, and instead of just doing an exposure adjustment, I'm gonna do a highlight adjustment as well. So I'm gonna drag it. I don't like the blues in it though. I'm gonna drag it right about here, -50. We're gonna do that. The whites, I like my whites high a little bit. Blacks, they look okay right now. I actually kind of like the blacks a little bit higher in this image. I'm doing a lot of adjustments to this picture, and that just goes to show, just never slap a preset on it and just call it good. You should always make fine-tune adjustments, because I think it'll make your image that much better. So I do kind of like to shift a lot of my greens to yellow in my current set of images, because I am trying transition into these fall palettes, but I don't necessarily have a lot of fall colors right now. So even though some of these sliders, I know they're not gonna really do much, I like to just crank them to see what it is that they change in the photo and to see if there's anything that I wanna fine tune. These aren't really doing much of anything. So I'm gonna jump over here to saturation. The yellows here, I kind of like them pretty dead looking, so I'm gonna keep it there. Aqua looks bad, so we're not gonna do aqua. Blue looks terrible. Don't be afraid to not commit to an edit. So if you make an adjustment and you don't like it, just Control Z that nonsense. Like, don't worry about it. The worst thing that you can do when you're editing is think that it's permanent. Like, don't be afraid to go back and make adjustments again. Oftentimes, there's a good number of photos on my Instagram that I've gone back and edited again. So the picture that I've posted to Instagram has been edited actually. It's gone through like 2 or 3 different iterations of edits. I fine tune all of these adjustments, and depending on how my Instagram grid is laid out, and which images are coming up next, sometimes I'll go in and I'll adjust the colors to make it match a little bit. So sometimes I do that. My point is, don't be afraid to reapproach an edit if you have to. I'm spending a lot of time on this picture, so I'm just gonna hurry it up. I'm finishing up the image here. I sort of feel like I'm getting lost in it, so I'm just gonna call it good enough for now, and if I need to go back and touch it back up again later, I will, but I have a lot of images here to get to, so I'm not gonna do too much. After I've spent a good deal of time sort of fine-tuning some of the adjustments on this picture, here's the before and here's the after. It's a pretty drastic difference here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna come over here and I'm gonna copy these develop settings. So since these photos are all taken on the same day, sort of in the same conditions, I'm just gonna paste those develop settings onto each of these photos and see how they look, and then I'll do some more fine tuning on those adjustments after. This is turning into a bit of a lengthy video, so I'm gonna try to wrap it up here with this photo because this is kind of being the photo that I'm liking a lot here. So as I'm finishing up this photo, for anybody who's like, you didn't really show us your process, you just kind of slapped a preset on it, and yes, you're making fine-tune adjustments, but there was so many adjustments made to that preset already. That's just my style. What's hidden behind that preset is a lot of work trying to figure out how presets work and to find something that looks good for me and my style. So my advice would be, I mean, I can and I will, of course, go through edits. Like there's an edit already on this playlist as well where I go from scratch and I do from the ground up a build. I think it's like a hot air balloon shot or something. So like there will be those edits on this channel and stuff, but if you're weird about the preset thing, just know that there is no magic make this photo better button. That doesn't exist. These presets help nudge you in the right direction sometimes, and if they're created by you yourself, that can be an extra step in the right direction. But, you know, you aren't gonna put anything on any photo and it's gonna look great. If you wanna truly give it the time that it deserves, you'll fine-tune the photo yourself. Does that make sense? Don't be afraid to use presets, but you should also be learning from them, is my advice. That's it. Okay. So this is where we're at. I think we started with 142 and then we narrowed it down to a list of about 23. And now we are at, I think, 15 photos. And I might even narrow it down even more after this. So this is where we ended up. These are the photos that we've got here. This one I'm okay with. That looks a little bit better. That's okay. I really like this picture. This one even more. This one's okay. I like what's in the foreground here, just a little bit of reeds. This picture is all right. It kind of shows water, but it's hard to tell that it is water. So I think I like this one more for that reason. Picnic table shot looks great. I might fine tune a little bit of I'm just worried a little bit of the details being lost in the table itself actually, but I don't want to pull any more detail out of the sky. So I think I'm just gonna make another filter here. This is just a radial. And I'm just gonna bump highlights down. I gotta invert it on the table. Just a little bit. Like negative 15. Does that look good? How are we looking? Before, after? Fantastic. This shot I'm not worried about. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. This shot was the winning shot of the whole group, and it wasn't even what I went there to take a photo of. That's amazing. Get out there and take photos. Get out there and just do it. Ugh. So that is the collection of photos from the shoot, from the vlog from earlier this week. And I hope that you guys like these photos as much as I had fun making them. Lord. yeah, you'll notice there's certainly a style that I like, that I gravitate towards with these. Editing is a lot of fun, and I would really encourage experimenting, especially if you can get your hands on some creator presets. That's a great way to learn. That's certainly how I learned a lot about how to edit, and I would certainly recommend it. So I think I'm gonna cut it off here because I've been rambling for way too long, but I hope you enjoyed this quick editing video on the photos from that little adventure that I did last week. So I'm gonna wrap the video up here. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Yeah, comment down below with handles to your Instagram if you've got some fun edits up there that you're really proud of that you'd like me to take a look at. I would love to take a look at those and let you know what I think. So leave those comments down below, and that's it. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.